Hey guys, it's Danny. Today we're gonna take care of this Cattleya that I received from my mom. I actually left a small division with her when I left Romania, and this is a division of that division. It grew a lot. So she returned it to me. I had my own. This is the, what's it called? Jungle Eyes. It's the Cattleya Jungle Eyes. Beautiful Cattleya. I lost mine due to the whole move and stressing her out. She never actually recovered for me, but I have her again. This is a division of what I left home, and it's a beautiful spotted Cattleya. I'm really happy to have it back. She transported it bare-rooted, which, you know what? If we must, we must, right? However, I know that there is a practice here and there to sell Cattleyas bare-rooted, and I have opinions on that. Don't I have opinions on everything? But we're going to talk a little bit about purchasing bare-root Cattleyas in particular, unlike other orchids, because I think Cattleyas are kind of the trickiest orchids when it comes to being bare-rooted or handling their roots. So here are a few things that I think you should know before you purchase such a Cattleya as I go ahead and repot my little cat. So before we start, don't forget to give this video a like if you end up enjoying it. Why not subscribe? I do post regularly. The events in my life are done, so from now on it's gonna be regular. But if you're feeling extra about it, consider further supporting this channel by checking out the merch, using the affiliate links down below in the description, becoming a member, or using the super thanks option down below my videos. Righty. So let's start with my opinions, shall we? If you know my beginner tutorial on Cattleyas, you might already know that I personally believe from experience that Cattleyas have very sensitive roots. And by this I mean that if they are damaged in the slightest, what they typically do is just lose the roots. It is not unheard of. It's quite common to have a Cattleya lose most of its roots at repotting. Some species or hybrids or varieties are more sensitive than others, that is true, but it's hard to tell which. There are so many varieties and hybrids and species out there that making a list, it's borderline impossible. So, because there are so many which do not react well to being repotted at the wrong time when active regrowth is not happening, I prefer to generalize and spread the word of caution to be very careful with the roots of Cattleyas. Unlike the roots of Phalaenopsis or other types of orchids, dendrobiums and so on, these guys, they're pretty sensitive root-wise. Thus, my opinion on purchasing bare-rooted Cattleyas in particular, it's not that great, I'll be honest. I would not do it in a million years. I would just move on to the next orchid. Who am I kidding? If there's a Cattleya that I've always wanted and I really want to get it, I will go ahead and risk a bare-root purchase. But other than that, I will just go for potted Cattleyas. Because if you have a Cattleya potted, it means the roots are established. They're not theoretically suffering unless the medium is bad. So if you have that type of Cattleya which should not be repotted in the off vegetative growth season, you can wait. You can let it be there, offer water, don't bother the roots, and you can wait until brand new roots start to grow. Now, my little Cattleya has a pretty continuous growth. It's one of those hybrids which does not wait around for an entire year to grow vegetatively, a new growth, new roots, and so on. So I'm lucky in that regard. I'm also lucky that the roots are not incredibly sensitive, so I do have quite a few roots to salvage here. And again, I'm lucky that I have brand new roots sprouting. Let's give you a close-up. There we are. Look at that. See? So this orchid, even if I would lose this entire root system, it would be fine because I have brand new roots growing. Yes, there will be a little bit of setback, but I am not going to lose it. But just so you know, in my experience, bare-root Cattleyas, it's a roller coaster for sure, and sometimes you're not gonna like the ride. But let's presume you already purchased a bare-root Cattleya and it's not growing. It's shriveling, it's dehydrating, and the roots are going away. Well, I would suggest you go ahead and make an ICU setup for it. I'll link it down below to my video that explains the ICU setup. Resume of that is a chamber with high humidity to preserve the moisture in the orchid until it decides to put out roots. It might put out roots this year, it might not. Maybe it's gonna be next year. The best we can do is preserve the humidity without rotting the plant. However, if you have an orchid which still has roots and furthermore has brand new roots, well, you can go ahead and repot it. And this is the stage where I'm at with my Jungle Eyes, and that's exactly what we're gonna do. All right, so the first thing we need to do is wet the roots. In this way, we can tell what roots are good and which are not anymore. The good roots obviously will turn green on Cattleya orchids. They are typically white when they're dry, not silvery like Phalaenopsis. And the roots which are not good anymore are going to be darker colored typically and also mushy. If we're gonna pull on them, the velamen will come apart. We're gonna be left with this string behind. The string does not live without the velamen, no point in keeping any of that. Also, Cattleya orchids can have white roots if they have not been exposed to light. If they're white but still hard to the touch, then leave them be, they're absolutely fine. Hopefully, they will make it. Now, here's the thing, it's going to be a bit of a lottery here. First and foremost, obviously, we need to remove everything that we can clearly see is not alive anymore. But it doesn't mean that what we still have alive will remain alive, sadly. But that's the way it goes with Cattleyas. So do the best job you can with the roots you have, pot your orchid, but just know in a month, you might have to go back for it. We're gonna get to that. So let's just go ahead and do that. Let's cut away all of the dead roots we can see. Okay, so for the moment, this is all that I needed to cut. There are still some roots which are questionable. I'm gonna let them be for now. So you can go ahead at this point and repot it. What I will do though, because my orchid is a little rambly as you can see, and this particular orchid can be a little bit rambly, what I like to do is tidy up older orchids, meaning I like to keep only the freshest pseudobulbs. Only this side will continue to grow and bloom and create roots. The older side will not create roots. So just to keep my collection a little bit more tidy, more compact and space saving, what I like to do is cut the older growth. So on my orchid, this section is pretty old growth. I'm going to cut it away from the rhizome, pretty much do a division. And if you don't know how to divide orchids, and the rules of division and so on, of course I have a video on it, check it down below. This side you can propagate. There is a chance it will start to grow new shoots at some point. Excuse my voice, I'm coming out of a cold actually, but yeah, my voice is not 100%. So this is the division that I will keep. If I so desired at this point, I could divide it again here and arrange it in the pot a little bit more compact. I'll see if I'm gonna do that because I have a lot of pseudobulbs per division. I might do that just to keep things more tidy, but I can let it be like this. Another thing that I really like to do is remove the dried sheets because they can hide pests. And whatever treatments I do will not be efficient if I don't touch the pests, since I personally prefer to use topical measures, not systemic measures. Alrighty, we are pretty clean. So at this point, I can go ahead and prepare my pot. Okay, so I think this pot is pretty great and I really don't need to mess around more with the shape of the orchid, don't need to divide it again. Typically what I would do if the rhizome would be a little too long and there would be nothing on the sides, I would divide this once again and then rotate and place it back to back. Make a sort of a bush out of my orchid, and that saves a lot of space, makes everything more compact, and saves up on the space in the pot as well. You can use this pot for longer. Right, my medium of choice is sphagnum moss, which I know for some of you it's a little shocking, but I live in a very, very, very hot climate, and for me, this works a treat, even for Cattleyas. Imagine this is a terracotta pot. Same type of deal, but in my environment, terracotta pots are not ideal. Unless I want to water twice a day, which I don't. So I'm gonna go ahead and pot the orchid like normal. You can go ahead and pot in whatever type of mixture and pot you like best, whatever works out best in your environment. And yeah, go for it, like you would normally pot any sympodial orchid. I'm trying to leave more space for the growths here, so I'm gonna put the older growth, which is this side, to the side of the pot because nothing will grow from here anymore. The new growths are here, so the pot will fill in this direction. I'm gonna leave more space here. By the way, at the end of this video, I'm gonna show you an orchid that just bloomed that I'm really, really proud of. Just a little bonus at the end, so stay tuned for that. So let's speed things up a little. At the top of my setups, I like to add bark. It's just a top layer. It does not aerate anything. I do not need more aeration. I prepare my sphagnum moss very fluffy. The only reason I use bark on top is to prevent cyanobacteria from forming on the sphagnum moss, which here in my climate, it happens a lot, and it damages root tips. So prevention is the way to go for me. All right, and we are pretty much done. Additionally, if the orchid is not very stable, you can always stake it. My preferred are the bamboo skewers, these guys, which are very affordable. You can find them anywhere. No need for orchid stakes unless you really want to. What I like to do is stake the orchid a little bit. Now in moss, it's not so crucial because even if the orchid wiggles, the moss is just so fluffy, like a blanket, like a pillow, that the root tips will not get bruised. However, the top layer is not so fluffy, and I do have some new roots in the top layer. So the more stable I can make my orchid, the better. So that's a little tip if you're working with more abrasive materials like bark, cocoa husk, charcoal, even leca. It's a good idea to try and stabilize your orchid, especially the new growths, as good as possible. And there are many ways to do that. I prefer the bamboo skewers. You can also have the rhizome clips. Whatever you like best, it really doesn't matter. The end result is the same. Now I have a brand new root here, which is a little bit high. Some orchids will have the tendency to climb a little bit. It's normal, it's their nature. Can't really do anything about it but adjust for their type of growth. So this growth has a brand new root right here on top, and it takes a while to reach the sphagnum moss and the moisture. So what I'm gonna do is put just a little bit of sphagnum moss here, like an extra layer, because roots really grow very well in sphagnum moss. They really like that moisture while they're growing. There we go. And on top of that, I'm gonna go ahead and place a little more bark. There we are. The key is to customize everything to your orchid, to yourself, to whatever you like to work with, whatever your environment requires, and so on. That is actually the key to success with orchids. That's what I've discovered. None of the other fruit salad or food scraps or whatever other hacks you find on the internet these days, those are not the key, trust me. Righty, we are done here. We need to create a tag so we know who this lovely lady is. Now, one thing I strongly suggest you to do after you repot your Cattleya is to unpot it after a month. Yes, I know, sounds a little bit weird, but sometimes it saves the orchid. Especially if you don't have a way to look at the roots, especially if the roots are not on the sides, they're in the middle. You need to see those roots because, as I was saying, not all of these live roots that we saved will make it. Some of them, if not most of them, will slowly and surely wither off after you repot them within the first month. Why do we keep them then? Well, because it's hard to tell which ones will survive, and we do want as many roots as possible on our orchids. Now, don't be worried that you're gonna mess up the new roots that might start to grow. In 1 month, they will not have time to go and attach to the sides of the pot, 99% of the cases, so you're not actually going to disturb them. You have to be gentle, yes, because maybe your orchid will have brand new root tips, but you're not going to disturb them and cause them to wither off again. It is more important to go ahead and cut away whatever died off, because it will start to break down in the medium, acidify it, spoil it, all sorts of bad stuff. And in the end, if your medium is already spoiled and acidic, it's gonna burn the brand new root tips that will grow. So after a month, what I think you should do is go check it out, see what remained alive. If everything is alive, great. If not, cut away whatever is dead and leave whatever is alive. And from there on, even if one root will die off within the next few months, it's fine. It's not 20, it's just 1 or 2. So this is exactly what I will do with mine. Luckily for me, I use sphagnum moss, so it's really easy. I'm not gonna disturb anything, and definitely I reuse it. You can definitely reuse your medium as well. You don't have to throw it away, but just make sure you cut away everything that died. And this is something I like to do with Cattleyas in particular, not necessarily with other plants, because I do not experience so much root loss with other orchids. It is what it is. Cattleyas are beautiful, but they have their quirks. Alrighty, we are now done. I will not water this orchid because the sphagnum moss was already damp. No need to put more water. If you would use a dry potting mix, I would suggest you water it. The brand new roots really do need that moisture to continue growth. The tips can actually dry off if they don't have enough moisture. I'm not an adept of not watering orchids after repotting. I always water, have been doing so for 10 years. It's fine. and she will sit under the Barina grow lights. The Cattleyas that I have really like those lights. And before I let you go, I will show you the orchid that I promised, which is in bloom and it smells delightful. Hold on. And here he is. This is Ingracum Magdalene. I showed you this guy when he had a bud. Now the bud opened. It is the very first day, the very first morning that I noticed this flower, and it's already fragrant. And the fragrance is just delightful. It smells very perfumey, not necessarily like roses or lilies or things of the sorts like Cattleyas typically smell. And don't get me wrong, those fragrances are absolutely gorgeous. That's why, one of the main reasons at least, why I love Cattleyas. But these fragrances that are very perfumey, I really love. Just like the Brassavolas. The Brassavolas to me smell like an old French perfume as well, but also like sunscreen. Anyway, I really like it. This one, it is indeed very perfumey though. Now, why am I so excited? Well, because I had Ingracums in bloom before, specifically the Sesquipedale. And oh boy, it wasn't good. Like, when I saw the flower opening, I got it in the house to witness the grandeur of the flower, which is very beautiful and is pretty large. And it does have history, but the fragrance, yes honey, the fragrance, holy moly, it smelled very hard to explain, like bleach in my opinion, but other people describe it in very inventive ways. It does not smell good to my nose, absolutely at all. And my husband was like, oh, what is this thing that smells in the house? It's my flower. I'm gonna take it back to the greenhouse. So yeah, that flower, no, that Ingracum did not smell good. The Magdalene though, oh, totally different story. It has a sweetness to it. It has a classiness to it. I don't know. I'm hoping it's not just the mild scent of the first day. It only smells in the nighttime, by the way, and I'm recording very, very early in the morning when it's still dark, so it still smells. I'm gonna have to wait and see tonight how it smells, but so far, oh, it smells beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I'm so happy. So yeah, there we go. This is the Ingracum Magdalene. Totally recommend it if you see it for sale at a decent price and you like it and you feel intrigued. It smells beautiful so far. I'm gonna let you know if it continues. I'm gonna put a pinned comment on top in a few days and tell you if the smell changed to something offensive or not. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed today's video. Bottom line, Burwood Cattleyas, I would not do it, as I was saying, but if you must, I hope you got something out of today's video. And before I let you go, I'll remind you that I have a second channel where I post aquarium stuff, so if you're into that, check it out. I'll link it to it down below in the description, just have to scroll down a little bit. But for orchid stuff, subscribe to this channel, and with that said, I'll see you next time. Bye!